The communication lag meant the emotional fallout from Earth arrived in pieces, like letters from a war delivered after the peace treaty is signed. The first batch of messages from Wayfinder, sent weeks ago when the Wayfarer was just approaching Earth, was routine. Supply reports, maintenance logs, a request from Jax for more details on the series relay specs. The second batch, sent after they had received Rook's initial report about the purists and the Geneva fragment, was different. Vance's message was not recorded in the command center. It was a private log, her face lit by the soft glow of her quarters terminal. She looked exhausted, the streaks of gray in her hair more pronounced, but her gaze was direct. "Kaelin, I got your report, the Alpine Bastion, Thorne." She said her uncle's name carefully, as if it were made of glass. "I hadn't spoken to him in 10 years, after Silent Spring, after the purists branded me a traitor for trying to reform Aegis from within. He said I had muddied the blood." She gave a faint, joyless smile. "I suppose he died thinking he'd kept it clean. I'm sorry you had to be the one to manage that. And I'm sorry for the people he took with him, the children." She paused, gathering herself. The commander's mask was gone. This was just a woman, grieving a family that had been broken long before the world ended. "Your conclusion is right. Earth is a memory. We have to stop looking backward. The survivors you brought out, they're not purists anymore. They're refugees. Treat them as such. Help Renn. He was always the smart one in that family, the one who cared more about how things worked than why they should." Her tone shifted, becoming more formal, but the undercurrent of personal feeling remained. "The relay from Ceres is stable. We're receiving their periodic data bursts. It's reassuring. A light on the map. Mars is the last light. Be careful there. They have principles, and principles can be harder to negotiate with than outright hostility. Don't let Jax's pragmatism or my whatever this is." She gestured at her own weary expression. "Make you think we're not with you. We are. The network is the only future that doesn't end in a grave or a harmonized smile. Come home when you can. Ilara." The message ended. Rook replayed it once, listening not just to the words, but to the spaces between them. The shared weight. The unspoken acknowledgement that they were both shouldering impossible burdens, alone together across the light years. He composed a reply, knowing it would take weeks to reach her. "Ilara." Thorne died confused. In the end, he asked if the children were safe. "There's a fragment of the man you knew, still in there. We saved 108. Renn is leading them. He's a good man who made a bad choice, and now he's living with it. We understand that. We're approaching Mars. I'll be careful. Principles are just another kind of wall. We've gotten good at climbing walls or going under them. The noise here is loud. It's messy. It's human. It's what we're fighting for. Tell Jax his coffee synthesizer is still a priority. Rook out." He sent the message, a tiny burst of noise aimed at a distant point of light called home. On the final approach to Mars, Rook stood on the bridge. The rust-red planet filled the viewport, its ice-capped poles and deep canyons stark and beautiful in the light of the distant sun. The orbital graveyard was less dense than Earth's, but it was there. Dead freighters, the skeletal remains of early orbital habitats, all dark and silent. The Wayfarer was receiving the same tight beam, frosty hails from Mars' central defense. They were following the prescribed vector to Utopia Planitia. Hayes was at tactical, her posture rigid. "They're tracking us with enough surface-to-orbit batteries to turn this ship to dust. Welcome is not their primary protocol." Kai was at engineering, monitoring the dampening field. "Their scans are probing for Aegis signatures. Our field should mask the residual harmonics from the Geneva data core, but it's a close thing." Renn stood at the back of the bridge, having asked to observe. He wore a simple ship suit now, not purist garb. His face was a mask of intense concentration as he watched the Martian data stream across the screens. "They're orderly," he murmured, almost to himself. "That's the problem," Rook said, not turning around. "Order can be as inflexible as faith." He felt the collective anxiety of the ship behind him, the original crew's wariness, the purists' terror of yet another rigid society, his own deep-seated knowledge that this was the last chance. If Mars was another closed door, humanity's future was a handful of scattered lifeboats waiting to sink. His phantom pain, that constant companion, hummed a new tone. It wasn't the scream of the harmonized, the grind of Ceres, the static of Io, or the dying sigh of Earth. It was a dry, analytical frequency, a calculated, observing silence. The silence of a civilization that had survived by thinking, by planning, by removing variables. It was the most dangerous silence he'd encountered yet, because it wasn't born of madness or despair, but of cold, rational certainty. He turned to face his bridge crew, and to Renn. This is it, the last archive. They have the numbers, the stability, the resources. They also have a rule for everything. Our job is to convince them that some rules need to bend, that the noise we bring, from Wayfinder, from Ceres, from Io, from Earth, isn't a threat to their order. It's the only thing that will keep it alive in the long run. He looked at the red planet growing ever larger. We don't ask for a home. We offer a partnership, a bigger net. But if they choose to be the last perfect knot in a dying rope. He left the sentence hanging. They all knew the alternative. The Wayfarer began its descent. The cradle at Utopia Planitia awaited, a geometric puzzle of lights on the red dust. Rook took his seat in the command chair, the weight of Earth's ashes, of promises to the dead, of stolen data and fragile alliances, settling onto his shoulders. He was not a diplomat, he was a scarred witness, a canary, a lever puller. But he was also now the frayed thread trying to bind broken pieces together. "Take us in," he said, his voice the only sound in the tense quiet of the bridge.